On to our third inductee for the ASCA Hall of Fame, and we're going to see our introduction here on the screen for Coach Ray Looze.
Anyone who takes the Indiana University head swimming coach job will always be measured by one standard, that of legendary IU coach Doc Councilman. In 2002, Ray Looze stepped in, and Indiana swimming had a new standard, his. The numbers are staggering. 11 Big Ten Coach of the Year titles, CSCAA National Coach of the Year in 2018, 9 Big Ten titles, and 15 Olympians coached in 2 tenures with the Olympic team, most recently in Tokyo. Looze's success as a coach was foretold by his winning in the water. While attending the University of Southern California, he was a 4-time All-American and became the first non-football Trojan to win GTE COSIDA Academic All-American honors. After leaving USC, Looze was a graduate assistant on a national title team at Texas, won 2 mythical national championships at the Pedal Academy, before winning 4 Big West Coach of the Year honors in 5 seasons at the University of the Pacific. In 2002, he arrived in Bloomington. Looze and his wife Candace, also a former swimmer and current coach, have 2 children, Bryce Ryan and Mackenzie, who swims for her father at IU, while Bryce attends Wabash College. The American Swim Coaches Association warmly congratulates Ray Looze on his entrance into the American Swimming Coaches Association Hall of Fame.
And now I'd like to bring to the stage Lars Jorgensen, who is going to do the introduction.
Thank you, guys. Congratulations to all the Hall of Fame members. Charlie, all your success, and throughout the years, I was just talking to Coach Troy. I'm like, I would love to get a suburban swimmer, but I'm like 0 for 100. But I'm going to keep trying. Cindy Gallagher goes back to my roots in Southern California, and she's awesome. So congratulations to her as well. Also to the age group coaches are so essential. Teaching at a young age, proper technique, and so I can't congratulate all those people that were nominated, those 10 people, and whoever wins the ASCA Coach of the Year. I have no insider information on that, but hopefully we'll find out soon. But I've known Ray for about 30 years, and he's been a great friend. He's been a mentor in my life. My freshman year, I was going to Southern California. Ray was a senior. That's kind of where we first met, but I'll go even further back. Ray was a teammate, classmate with my brother, Dan Jorgensen, who was a pretty good swimmer in his own right. So we'd drive from San Diego to go watch meets, and Ray was always so nice to me, and we developed a friendship and a bond really around sports. I wouldn't say just swimming, but sports. We would often talk about Bill Walsh's 49ers, or Bobby Knight's Indiana Hoosiers. And we bonded over after Saturday morning's practice about various coaches. Even back then, I knew that Ray was going to be an outstanding coach. He had all the attributes that you look for. His work ethic as an athlete was second to none. Many of you guys may not know, but in 1992 got 3rd Olympic trials in the 400 IM. Anybody who swims the 400 IM well knows how to work hard. And I think finishing 3rd Olympic trials and then also his work ethic combined make him the coach he is today. We had this great opportunity. I coach at the University of Kentucky, and this past year we spent some time with Dabo Sweeney, who's the head coach at Clemson. He's got a lot of sayings. I love Dabo, but his thing is embrace the grind. And he goes, no shine without the grind. And his favorite is embrace the suck. All great lines to use. But Ray's embraced the grind as an athlete and as a coach. And I think that is the reason he's been so successful. Ray's extremely smart. In the video, they didn't talk about it, but he was also a Rhodes Scholar finalist. Graduated magna cum laude with a degree in finance from Southern Cal. He went on to get his master's degree at the University of Texas and swim for some guy named Eddie Reese. He's also a selfless leader, constantly promoting his assistant coaches. His senior year, he gave part of his scholarship back because we're trying to recruit somebody to maybe win a national title at USC. And that's pretty selfless, team-oriented. The guy never scored a single point at NC2As, but he still gave up money, which I thought was awesome. Ray is extremely determined, passionate, and hardworking as a coach. Some of his distinguished marks are 9 Big Ten titles, which in a really, really difficult league is extremely amazing. Obviously, Olympic coach 2016, 2020. The coach of Lily King, the fastest female breaststroker in the history of swimming. Cody Miller, Zach Apple won a gold medal, and Blake Peroni this summer. And I thought probably the coolest story at Olympic trials and the Olympics was Annie Laser. And some of you guys may know her story about her father passing away a little bit before trials, but she overcame that. I know Ray's got a really good relationship with her. And sitting in Lexington, Kentucky, watching the Olympics and watching her come on that last 50 for bronze, I thought that was amazing. Really, really cool. So Ray had a lot to do with all of her success. And she wasn't a superstar necessarily in college. So all the kudos to Ray and everybody at Indiana that really helped her out. So Ray has been successful as a club coach, even a prep school coach at Petty. He coached mid-major UOP to success. Obviously, he's coached in the Power 5 at Indiana. He's coached professional athletes. Have you coached masters? Probably the only thing you haven't done, no? Not yet. Well, one day. So simply put, Ray is a winner. He is so deserving of being honored and recognized today by ASCA for all of his accomplishments, and being inducted tonight, I think, is the ultimate honor and very well deserved. Congratulations, Ray.
Lars was really nervous there. It was great to see that, him kind of squeal up here. You know, I knew I'd like Lars the minute I saw him one morning after morning practice. He was reading the sports page, which I really enjoy doing, and he was adjusting the baseball batting averages to the next day based on the results from the previous evening, and I was like, I really like this guy. So he's right. We love sports. I would like my wife, Candace Looze, to stand up. Please, stand up. Because I'll tell you one thing. Greg, the minute we sat down, Greg Troy goes, you really batted above your league there, Ray. And he is so right. Because until I married her, I was nothing, period. You know, when you're partners with somebody, it's amazing. You know, with our children and swimming, couldn't have asked for a better partner in life than you, Candace. Gonna make you cry tonight. And so Candace and I were sitting at Olympic trials. We were eating in this bar, and I saw 3 women to my right. One was Jennifer Lamont, one was Donna DeVerona, and one was Nancy Hogshead. And I was like, those are 3 power women. And I had to go, I was like, I got to go talk to them. And Candace was like, they're enjoying their dinner, don't bother them. But I did. And for us to have a female CEO in a sport totally dominated by males is fantastic. And Jennifer, I think your parents are here tonight. Can I have Jennifer's parents stand up for producing an amazing woman? Because this is a big deal in our sport. Good parenting right there. We need more of that in our sport. And That's a big, big deal, because Cindy's right. And before I met Candace, my biggest mentor was my mom. And she went to USC, and she was the first woman to get a PhD in history from University of Southern California. And they flunked her. And she was a really smart woman, but they did not want a woman to get a PhD. And she had to go back and redo her thesis. And she wrote a book on Alexander Hamilton. And I was like, who the hell is that guy? What did he do? And then they make this big Broadway play out of him. And I was like, Mom really was ahead of her time. And she's the reason I went to USC. And Jennifer and I don't necessarily overlap, but it's kind of cool to see her in the position she's at now. My coach at USC was Peter Dalen, Swarthmore graduate. Yes, and he was very proud of that. He would always correct my English, and he called me Ray Looze, never Ray. It was always both of my names. And when I decided to get into coaching, he said, I thought you were going to become a lawyer, because that's all I ever wanted to be. I guess Greg Troy said the same thing. And Peter was really disappointed, because I wasn't going to donate back to the school at the same rate as maybe a coach would. And I asked Peter, I said, well, I'm going to get into coaching. I'm going to go to Harvard and take this assistant job for $17,000 a year. I go, what's the best advice you can give me, Peter? And he said, I'll give you one thing. Find someone who swims really fast. That was Peter's advice to me. Thank you, Peter. And you know what? That has always worked. Whenever I've happened along one of those people, that works out pretty well. And, and then I kind of, got in with this guy named Eddie Reese. And I was still planning to go to law school at that point. I was in Austin, Texas, and I was working at a law firm called Aiken and Gump and trying to train for the 1992 Olympics. And I said, Eddie, I think I'd like to coach. And my mom is a huge educator. She's like, you're wasting your time. You need to get a master's. And I go, Eddie, you got any advice on that? And Eddie's got all these cocktail napkins on his desk. One has the recruits he wants. That's his recruiting plan. And he gets 9 out of 10 of those guys. And then he wrote on the other napkin, he goes, just take this to my office, which he's never at. Maybe we should all take note of that from a success standpoint. And I handed it to his secretary, and she goes, okay, sign all these forms. And that paid for my entire graduate work at Texas. And I was like, is there not a limit to this? Because there was 3 or 4 of us, and he just did that. And that really got me into coaching, because I saw a guy coaching that really enjoyed it. Charlie said, it wasn't work. And Charlie and I don't know each other that well, but you get referenced a lot in my world. Brendan Hansen, whenever people ask me the proper head position in breaststroke, he has the perfect head position, and that man taught him that. And it keeps the hips super high. And unless we develop another way to have a head position, because everybody wants to put their face in the water and all this stuff, and Charlie knew a long time ago. And I always use that. Thank you, Charlie Kennedy. It's one of the foundation pieces. And then Cindy Gallagher. I'm at University of the Pacific. And for those of you that don't know where that is, it's in Stockton, California. And when I told my mom I was going to go coach there, she said, but son, that's a cow town. And it is. But it was Division I coaching, believe it or not, 3,500 students. And then I was trying to get some meets that weren't against really bad teams. And I called up Cindy and I go, would UCLA swim us? And she goes, yeah, come on down, we'll swim you. And I go, I don't have diving. And she goes, we won't score diving. And we went down there, and the meet came down to the last relay. And we had to have our A relay beat her A relay, and we also had to have our B relay beat her B relay. So we win the A relay, and the B relays are dead even. And I'm like, we could beat UCLA. This would be like really big. And we lost. And Cindy was like so gracious. She was like, boy, that was such a fun meet. You know, and if I was in her shoes, I never would have swum Pacific. I just wouldn't have done that. And she helped out a really young coach, gave a program a chance to, that program ended up finishing 15th at NCAAs that year, in part because of that gift she gave our program. So like both Charlie and Cindy, they touched a lot of people, and they certainly touched me, and they didn't even know it. And, I've had a lot of other mentors along the way, Mark Schubert, through the years, Lars, my dear friend. But then in 2017, you get to a point in like major college coaching where you don't get any mentors. Nobody will tell you anything because they're afraid you're going to beat them. I can't call, Mr. Holloway at NC State and go, hey, tell me your closest secrets. He's not going to do it. He just, whatever he said today was like just 10% of what he really does, I'm sure. But Greg Troy, we end up meeting each other at the World Championships in Budapest, and Greg's like, I hear you like to walk. Like I had a major back surgery, so all I can do now is walk, and we walk. So Greg Troy's like, can I walk with you? And I'm like, heck yeah. And so, he's kind of breathing hard the whole way, but, his belt size starts to shorten up as we go. And then he sort of disappears from the college coaching scene for about a month, from August into September. And I'm like, I heard you were sick or something, Greg. And he goes, well, I had a heart attack. And the doctor said, you either saved my life or almost killed me. So I choose that I saved your life, Greg. But, Greg's just been an awesome friend at these major meets, and there's so much stress that goes along with, World Championships, the Olympic Games, and just seeing a true master navigate through all that, in the relay talks and what's best for the kids. That's always, the way he thinks. And he always puts the kids ahead of anything else. And I've really learned from him in that regard. And but he pulled me aside when we got to Tokyo. Like he told me, I put you down as a roommate, but I would prefer not to have a roommate at all. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But I won't tell all the good stories about the Olympics, to protect the innocent here. That would be Greg. But he pulled me aside and he goes, things have gone pretty well for you. 2016, it was pretty perfect. 2017, really couldn't gone any better. And he goes, you really should prepare yourself for unpleasant experiences too. And then, 2021 didn't really start too well, at least for my swimmers. And, it kind of bottomed out with Lily getting bronze, and Greg really helped pull me out of that. And I said, Greg, can you just take that comment back? Because I'm really superstitious, and I think you've cursed me. So I walked him over to like a wood table, and we did this, and then the meet was much better after that point. So thanks for taking that comment back, Greg. But, I want to finish up with coaching is a lot about resilience. And I watched a TED Talk. And this woman, and I shared it with my team recently, this woman said there's 3 keys to resilience. And as swimmers and as coaches, we got to be resilient because we fail most of the time. And the first thing about resilience, she said, was bad things happen. And you need to accept that that's going to happen. Like Charlie has coached a long time, and he's had really magical things happen, and he's had super bad things happen. Me too. And you have to accept that. That's part of life. The second thing that resilient people do is when those bad things happen, they focus on what they can control. What can I do, given the circumstances? What can I control in this situation? Because there's stuff you have to accept. And then the last thing that people do is they ask themselves, one question. Is what I'm doing helping me or harming me? Because we do things in coaching that harms us a lot. And then that doesn't help us coach our kids real well. Swimmers do it too. And I think that given this past year, how hard it was with teams going under and not being able to coach our kids, I'm so grateful to be here. And if there was 10 people here, I would be grateful to be here. Grateful to ever get to go to the Olympics. I never thought that would happen. And there's literally thousands of people that made that happen. I just happened to be standing here. But that has to do with all the swimmers and all the coaches that I've had the pleasure to coach with. And I want to thank ASCA for trusting me with this honor. You guys have a good night, and I can't wait to hear the Coach of the Year.